Okay, we'll start tonight's City of Olivet's Planning and Community Design Commission for February 1st, 2024, in order. Mr. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Sam Wallach,
Present.
Daniel Rosenberg,
Present.
Tim Spiegelglass,
Present.
Laura Ragsdale,
Present.
Brian Lewis, present, Carol Wagner,
Present.
and Robert Jerkel.
Present. Let it also be known that our City Council Liaison, Councilmember Missy Waldman's in attendance, as well as our staff liaisons, Carlos Trejo, Director of Olivet's Planning Community Development Department, Sean Doty, Senior Planner, as well as Jack Carswell, Planning and Zoning Administrator. All right. Carlos, am I missing anything? Oh, nice. Sorry, Don. Did I really? Wow. So it's been a long day for me. I apologize. Hopefully I'll get through this meeting. All right. Thanks for everybody being in attendance. It's great. And just to let you know how we, run the meetings, we run it through the agenda system. So if there's items on the agenda that you'll see, we'll go through those one by one. There are a place for public comments. These are for items that are not on the agenda item for tonight. So if you do have a public comment for those, or that's not related to the agenda item, we'll ask you to come up and speak at that time. For comments that you want to make related to the agenda items, there'll be a time where we go through. And how we go through each agenda item is there's typically a staff report. There's some discussions amongst the commission members as well. And then we typically bring on the petitioner or, the person that's kind of in charge of that line item. And then we'll bring on public comments after that. We do ask you to limit your public comments to no more than 3 minutes. To be respectful of everybody's time, as well as to make sure everybody's opinion gets heard. And we also have the opportunity for people who are online to also make public comments as well. And how you do that is you typically, there's a button at the bottom where you raise your hand. And at that point in time, what you'll typically be brought on Carlos, what do you call that when you're brought on? Thank you. As a panelist. And just keep in mind too, if you're brought on as a panelist, by default, your camera's off and your sound is typically muted. So look for those because we really do need everybody's the video on as well as the sound on. It'll make things go a lot faster. And just one reminder, before you start giving your presentation, please state your name and address for the record too, as well. All right, thank you. Carlos, did I miss anything?
No, sir.
All right, then we'll move on to item 3, 2024 Comprehensive Plan Update. Carlos?
Chairman, at our last meeting on January 18, 2024, the commission initiated the beginning of the public hearing process for the adoption of our 2024 Comprehensive Plan Update. In accordance with the procedures within our zoning regulations and also with the state, we did post a notice on there in our St. Louis County, and then also had information throughout our social media access regarding that. We started the hearing at our meeting, and the commission then continued the meeting till this date in there. We also provided an opportunity for residents to access the full comprehensive draft via our website and submit comments through that website. Allowed the opportunity for residents to forward comments directly to me via an email in there. Through that past 3 weeks, we received one comment via the website concern regarding the proximity of buildings by the street. And then I received 2 email comments, and the commenters are both here. I'll let them go over their written comments that were submitted, and that is all we received to date. At the public hearing, there was 2 individuals that spoke before the commission also. So what you're doing is just continue. We did not close the public hearing. You're continuing the public hearing and giving an opportunity if there's any additional comments regarding the comprehensive plan before considering adoption.
Great.
Right.
Okay.
You do have copies of the email comment that was received, excuse me, the website comment that was received online. You do have a response from the consultants regarding the public comments that were posted or noted at our last meeting. And then you have copies of the 2 emails I received
Carlos,
last
to
Friday.
get those in the record, do you think it's worthwhile for you to kind of describe some of those comments that
Sure,
were made
I have no
via
problem.
the website?
And we do have the representatives of those 2 emails here, so they can be more specific in
Okay.
there. So I received 2 email comments. One was from Craig Todd, who urged the commission to consider placing a statement that would require public or resident input and as part of all development decisions, and is gained in consultation and collaboration with surrounding neighborhoods and property owners to determine whether a development idea is suitable for the community. And Mr. Todd is here. He can go more into elaborate a little bit more specifically.
We'll
And
do
then-
that at public comments.
Then we received an email from Stephanie Todd, who is also advisory committee member in the process, and she had various comments regarding the goals C, D, E, and G, and J, encouraging the more sustainable attribute to be provided into those goals on there. It includes the visioning component of adding aspects of sustainability, increasing green space as an objective, especially like along Olive, implementing best practices in managing stormwater. In regards to our parks, an objective to protect our parks from detrimental development, including, providing protection perimeters around the park from nearby noise, light pollution, such on businesses that they work towards greater environmental sustainability and have specific goals supporting, promoting, and encouraging the businesses to use green or sustainable practices. An objective be added to public health, also furthering, being cognizant and protecting the community from environmental harms such as air, water, noise, and light. And then in goal J, to encourage efficient and successful growth and redevelopment, to encourage strategic growth that will benefit the city and have little, if any, impact on the climate. In regards to the comments that we received via the website, it was noted, we only received one, and it was anonymous, and it was, please slow down or stop the approval of big buildings close to Olive. Then they had references to U-Haul, Oliver, Firestone. It's becoming more like driving downtown.
Okay, good. So, any further discussion amongst the commission members at this point in time? Seeing none, I think this is probably the ideal time to just kind of continue the public comment portion of this. So if there's anybody in the audience that has a public comment or wants to elaborate a little bit more on what they've already submitted, that would be great.
Hi,
Uh,
my name is Craig Todd. I live in.
Greg, your microphone is off, so make sure you click. Yes, perfect.
How's this? All right. Hey, my name is Craig Todd. I live at number 7 Heather Hill Lane. As Carlos mentioned, I sent off an email and he summarized it well, but I think you used the word that the PCDC, I forget what it was, but has to do something. I've been involved in pharmaceutical manufacturing and dealing with the FDA. That's like a shall statement. You shall do this. I stayed away from that, but my intent was to just put something into the comprehensive plan that says the PCDC will, how do I say it? Well, I'll just read it.
Perfect.
Which is, our residents' input is part of all development decisions and is gained in consultation and collaboration with surrounding neighborhoods and property owners to determine whether a development idea is suitable for the community. I don't think that's anything different than what you do, but I didn't see anything that really addressed talking to the residents. There's something that kind of alluded to it in page 24 under the community vision, as I put in that note. And I thought this would just elaborate on that, saying, hey, residents' input, it's in there. So that, after my comments a couple of weeks ago, this is, I thought about it, looked at the comprehensive plan, thought about your comments, and this addresses my point. So no matter what you're doing, in all those sections, the residents' input is important, and it's in the overall guidance from the community vision. So I
Very
encourage
good.
you to look at that and include it.
Good, good. Thank you for your comments.
Okay?
Anyone else?
So Stephanie Todd, 7 Heather Hill Lane. And I just wanted to emphasize a couple of the changes. Because like Carlos said, I commented on several of the goals, but I think 2 of them are kind of stand out to me. One, it's goal C. And so the vision includes sustainability in all aspects. But then I think to really make that part of the vision, under the objectives, it'd be great if to expand the objective, include best practices in stormwater management. I completely agree with that, but why not broaden that to say implement best practices in environmental sustainability, including stormwater management? Or just, just to make that objective more broad instead of just focused right in on stormwater management. And then like Carlos said, the goal G, which is community vision for safety. To me, when I think I want to live in a safe environment, I also think about I want to breathe clean air and water. And so add an objective, something like, these are suggestions, keeping the community safe from polluting businesses that impact air and water quality, as well as noise disturbances and light trespass. So those are the 2 that, kind of stand out to me.
Great. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and thanks for, it looks like it looks like in the plan.
If you could move closer, just so we can get it.
Just to thank Beth and all you for you have added a lot of environmental things in the comprehensive plan. So thanks a
Thanks
lot.
to your input too.
So, yeah, and these aren't changing anything. They're just kind of making things a little more broad.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We're welcoming. Even if you've read it and just want to add something, feel free, Carlos, since I'm not seeing anybody in the audience, is there anybody online that has a public comment?
No, sir, I don't believe there are 2 attendees online, and I don't believe one is for the petition and one is an observer.
One is for what?
An observer.
Observe, okay.
City manager, exactly.
Very good. Well, thanks everybody for the public comments, and this has been really a great process going through, and I appreciate all your comments that you've made so far. Do we still want to keep this open, or do we close it?
Chairman, you have exceeded or far exceeded the requirements of the statute on there, and if you are set, or if that is the if there are no other comments, I would advise to go ahead and close the public
Yeah.
hearing.
Okay, so seeing that there's no other public comments, we will close this, I guess. We'll close this public hearing. Thank you. All right, and I need it.
Yep.
All right, good go.
So at 7:16.
Okay, so do we have any more further discussions amongst the commission members?
Chairman, if I can provide just a little bit of guidance
Please.
before you commence deliberations on there. You've closed the hearing, and you now, as a commission, should discuss the plan. And then if the commission is prepared, consider adoption through resolution. A draft resolution has been placed as part of your packets and in the on your dais information. I'll give you an idea regarding what is that next phase and what to consider. The state statutes indicate that prior to the adoption of the comprehensive plan, you have to have a public hearing. And we've gone searching to find exactly what is the definition of a public hearing. Well, what distinguishes a public hearing from a public meeting or a comment done in a public facility? And there really isn't much in there. It's just that the hearing comments here are more considered more formal, and they're part of the record. But traditionally, when somebody speaks before the commission, they'll note their name, they'll note their address, and we include their comments into the minutes. And in this case, it's part of the record, and it's part of what we would call, let's say, testimony, if there was ever any concern or litigation regarding the adoption process of the plan. The state requires that you host a public hearing, but doesn't say how long it should be or to what extent. We've provided 2 days of public hearing comments, not just in person, virtually, and then the opportunity to use social media, our website, and email me directly those comments. So those comments, I think, have met any interpretation of what public hearing should be or consist or composed of. So as the commission now begins to talk about, well, what we heard regarding the process, consider the perspectives on opinions and comments, whether the comments are personals, my view of this, collective comments where Jack and I and Don think that the commission should consider, or consensus comments that you heard put together by the consultants or at the community events in there. And then the commission should look at what was the goal of this process of the comprehensive plan, of adopting this comprehensive plan. Our goals, according to our RFQ, is adopted by and published by this commission, was to ensure there was equity in the participation process, which we went out to various apartments and posted flyers. We engaged with groups that were not represented in proportion to our census data. We also had various community events and individual pop-up events throughout this process. We also requested that the process include the 3 sustainability principles throughout the plan consideration, which they have, and then that they provide a vision and goal type of setting on our behalf in there. Then the next question was, was this process complied with? Did the consultant meet our goals? And I think overall I'll let the commission have that discussion. But as of date and what I've heard today, they've done a very good and thorough job in meeting and exceeding our expectations. And then as you hear these comments too, as you take these individual comments or so, consider, was the process equitable, and did the community have an ample opportunity to engage? So were there ample opportunities to express these points, opinions throughout this process in there? That's something that the commission will have to balance and kind of decide. So I'd ask, hopefully that gives you some guidance of what you need to talk about in there. And then if there's any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer. We do have Beth Quindry here with Traffic Consulting, who is the lead team member of that group. And then we'll be glad to answer any questions.
Great. Carlos, or anybody on the commission have any questions for Carlos about what he kind of just went over? That was a great summary, and I appreciate it tremendously. That was very helpful. I would be curious, to hear from Beth about some of these recent comments that were brought up and how they reflect kind of with the whole process. If some of those comments were reverberated kind of throughout, or were they isolated, just to see if we should, how much we should consider, with them.
Yeah. Carlos or Staff, do you have a copy of the memo that we read? I didn't bring it. Of the memo.
Yeah.
Okay, it's on. And I'm Beth Quindry. And do I need to state my address?
Please do.
Okay, I live at 441 Alice Avenue in Kirkwood,
Thank you.
Missouri. So the comments that that we got, there were three from the first speaker. I think the one that she gave the most time to was how we reflected sustainability in the vision statement. You know, we have a vision statement for the plan that was a short statement, and we actually did it last. And then we have guiding principles that were really the elaboration of the vision. We spent a lot of time with the advisory committee, public meetings, and public response to those guiding principles. So when, you know, we saved that short version of the vision statement for last, because it's the hardest to write, because you're trying to capture what you heard from all these different public input opportunities and all these different ideas. And so putting it into a short sentence or two is always really challenging. So we waited until the end. So we had a real feel for what was most important of the things that we were hearing from the community. But we ended up going back to the first survey that was done where we had a couple of open-ended questions. So the open-ended questions were, in 2040, what would Olivet be known for? And when I think of Olivet in the future, I hope it will be a place where blank. So those were questions where we didn't provide response options. It was just whatever people wanted to give to us. And so we went back to that, those two questions in particular, and said, okay, what themes really rose to the top there? That's what we included in that short vision statement. So we gave a lot of thought to how we did that, and we felt pretty comfortable with the process that we used to do that. So sustainability is certainly in the guiding principles, which are the elaboration of the vision, and then highlighted throughout the plan, noted with the green leaf. And thanks to Stephanie Todd here today and to others who really kept pressing for the inclusion of sustainability actions in the plan. We feel like it's really carried throughout and was true to the public opinion that we heard. So definitely take that comment very seriously. But we thought about, we feel good about the process that we use for developing that short vision statement. And so I'm not really in a position to recommend, but for your consideration, like that was our logic on that. So another question was about data, because we had 2021 ACS, American Community Survey data reflected in the plan, because it was the most current that we could get our hands on at the time that we were doing our data snapshot. So now we have, fast forward a year, and there is more data available, a different, new data, but we sort of had to put a line in the sand and say, this is where we are. I mean, the tricky thing that the individual noted is that there's been a lot that's happened in Olivet in the last year. And so we did mention that and call it out in the plan that said, we know that there's been a couple of larger buildings with apartment units that was built. So we called it out in the plan, but we didn't go back to change the data because you just can't do that without having to change everything so that you have consistency in the data that you have in the plan. So we felt okay. We feel good about the data that's in there. And then always for your consideration as you implement this plan, whenever you're making policy decisions, you will be looking at the latest data, and Carlos and his team will be sharing the latest data with you. And so, yes, there's a point in time in the plan, but as you move forward, they're going to be very consistent and diligent about bringing you the latest on the data. So we felt comfortable with where we were on that. And then the final comment of that initial person at the hearing was about a healthy natural environment and where that appeared in the plan. And so that was another just judgment call that we made about how things fell into different chapters in the plan. So we have a natural environment chapter, and potentially, the potential community actions found in Goal I address strengthening public understanding of the value of natural resources. Goal H is focused on recreation and health. So we didn't feel like it was the appropriate place to stress the environment in that particular location. We just kind of segregated out those ideas a little bit, and then used comments to refer to these sections so that readers could see that they were related to each other. So we felt comfortable with how we had put that into the plan. Were there specific questions about any of those comments, or does that help?
The last, about the vision, you know, where
Mhm.
we have the dynamic sense of place.
Mhm.
I always liked that because I
Mhm.
always thought it tied into the previous plan. It
Mhm.
kind of, you know, kept that thought process, you
Mhm.
know, going. And it's been a constant theme where, you know, Carlos always talks about the dynamic sense
Yeah.
of place. So
And
I've always thought
Mhm.
that that was important, you know?
Yeah.
And I was just wanted to catch your view of, was that the rationale for its inclusion?
That and really more so, it was because we heard so much from residents about wanting more retail and more restaurants. And so we thought that the dynamic sense of place really captured that piece of what we heard, and we heard a lot of that.
Yeah.
So yes, it was consistent with the previous plan. And I think it worked well for that reason, because I think what we heard overall from the community was we like the direction we're going. We just want to make, some tweaks to what we're doing. So I think having the consistency made sense for that reason, but really it was there as much to capture that idea of like, we want more to do. We want more things here. So it worked for a couple different reasons.
Good.
Yeah.
Carol?
I just want to point out that I've struggled with vision statements, as
Mhm.
been indicated. They are extremely difficult to write. And they're extremely difficult to encapsulate in one sentence everything that you're hearing from the community. And so, I mean, if you want to keep your vision statement down to one sentence that you can put on a page, it's a real struggle. And ultimately, you just can't do it all. I mean, but you have to, you use objectives and other parts of the plan to enhance what you're going to say. And I just want it, there's no such thing as a perfect vision statement. I mean, that one tries, but it doesn't happen, guarantee it. And I personally, I think that they did a very good job with our vision statement. I like that it carries forward a lot of things that we thought were important in the plan we just finished or finishing, but it also opens up doors to things that we haven't paid as much attention to, and we'll need to do so from now on. And I think that's important.
And it was a collective effort, by the way, right? We took a stab at it. The folks over here helped and added some good wording. So I won't take full credit for the vision statement. It was a group effort.
And then we also had some reviews early on, I think, with the advisory committee too.
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
guiding principles, there was a lot of work done
Yeah.
on the guiding principles by the advisory committee. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
right.
Yes.
So, any other questions for Beth?
Yes, whether it's through Beth or the commission liaisons to the advisory committee. One of the things I saw is that there was, different dynamics in terms of those participants and what their overall views or principles were and how that worked through the process. Because I felt through the advisory committee, I mean, we did have varying opinions or so, and collectively the group worked to a common vision or statement to facilitate, as it was facilitated through Shockey. So I don't know if there's anything as representatives that you guys can provide in terms of, for the rest of the committee, to know that, I mean, there were, difference in opinions and different aspects of whether it was economy resiliency, and even the overall vision.
Oh, yeah, I think Carol might be able to explain that, but I mean, we definitely experienced that. And it was great. I mean, because sometimes you'd had a lot of side conversations, but then, then it would be brought up and I think that's part of the process of working, through the different ideas. It's kind of hearing the differences of opinions, and then trying to kind of work through those and, come up with some sort of consensus. And you're never gonna get 100% consensus, but what we're trying to do is hear what, I guess, the majority of the people. And I think like this isn't anybody's, it's not the single plan from any individual. It's definitely was a group effort, especially taking all the efforts that we did to reach out to the community, and kind of bring up a lot of these ideas, which, and as Carol mentioned, there's a lot of new ideas in here as well. So it's definitely going to be interesting, and I definitely think it's going to be an exciting time, to where we go. So I'm excited about it. Carol, did you?
Yeah, I'll point out one other aspect of it. That's that there are many ways to look at all of that, and many things are important. So whether or not it is more important to you that we have economic development, or that we do only sustainable things, or that we have parks, or baseball for kids, whatever it is. But there isn't one of those things that I would say is more important than the other. They're all important. Okay, remember, we have personal priorities that differ, and they be changed over time, and that means they're still important factors, and they're all things that we want to pay attention to as we go forward. And I think the plan speaks to that. It mentions all the things that as a community we think are important. There isn't just one thing that we say, oh yeah, this is the thing, but they're all important. Sustainability is important. Our parks are important. Good housing is important. A vibrant Olive Street Road is important. Those are all things that are important to us as residents.
Brian, did you have anything you want to add to it?
No, I mean, having been part of the advisory committee, I think it's a fair representation to say this was well debated, well discussed, consulted from different groups and backgrounds, and there's directionally, even with the comments, and I appreciate the comments, I think those are reflected in the spirit and the approach. But again, this is a guiding principle. It's not a law, right, we're using as a mandate or an ordinance. So I think everyone agrees that it's reflective of the community's view of it and meets the objective, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And one other thing I was going to highlight too, which is kind of interesting, is the change in technology that's going to occur over the next 20 years. And that's something you can't predict. And it is interesting when you look back at where we were 20 years ago from here, how things were different, around town, and how families, operate, is different as well. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, and I think that's kind of one of the reasons why we need to kind of keep reviewing this and editing it and kind of adjust as we go, because we don't know the future, but we're just trying to point it in the right direction,
So
Go ahead, Carol.
I wanted to address Mr. Todd's comment to
Yeah.
us. I look at the plan in many ways from the perspective of a planner who's been seated on the hot seat in the courtroom, having to defend, or in some cases, knock down a community's plan. And certainly the more flexible the language is at the plan itself, the safer you are, quote unquote, in a court. I am personally very hesitant to put anything in the plan that would box us in the future. Any shells, as he said, and attorneys love to play with that stuff. And, if somebody wants to be on the opposing side and accuse you of not doing something, you have to be very careful about what the plan says. I think in practice, we do that in a way that is stellar compared to a lot of meetings I've been to in other cities around the county, especially. I think we make very considered decisions based on the input from the community. I think that's how we operate. I can't imagine that we would do anything else. But I would be very hesitant to put language in such as Mr. Todd suggested, because I am very mindful of the need to, well, we interpret that phrase today as meaning something else, meaning one thing, but 10 years from now, who knows what somebody's gonna do with it. And I would have a problem with that.
The only point I want to make too is Mr. Todd said he did not want to use shall or should. It was just saying that it was part of all development, which we tend to do already with our public comments that we have with all, with all of our, decisions.
Absolutely, we do.
So I do think that maybe, I think what his attempt was just to try to emphasize that or, kind of highlight that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I would support something like, if we wanted to say that in the plan that we should, as an objective, say we should continue our efforts to, obtain citizen comment.
I always like
on our
when it says
development
continue,
proposal.
especially for something that we've already have done.
Yeah, I could see doing that.
Yeah.
I don't want us to end up being accused of not doing enough in a court of law. And I may be overreacting, but having been there, I know it's smart to be skittish. And I would be concerned. I think continuing what we're doing and be mindful of the community's out, comments, I think is certainly important.
I do too.
And maybe that should be included as an objective or some statement in there. I think that would be good.
And I'm not sure if we already have that.
It
And
may
I would
already
ask,
be.
I would ask
yeah.
Beth, if, I know you don't have this memorized, but, but do you recollect seeing anything like that? Cause it is something that we always do. And, sorry about that.
I would, do I need to state my name again?
No, not anymore.
Okay. I would need to go back and look. I don't remember an explicit statement, but I can imagine where one would go. I think we'd put it in the land use chapter at the end. So that's something that we could explicitly call out. So I check to make sure that we haven't done it and I'm forgetting, but it's something that we could look at adding.
Do we,
Good.
if we're making changes, and I don't object to, I think the principle's there, but if we reopen and make changes, does that reopen the need to have any comments from the public or no? It's our will to make changes at this point, Carlos. Okay,
You're responding to public comment, so,
okay.
yeah.
One of the things for the commission consider, and again, this is the document that helps us in terms as we develop policy. Commission, is a recommending body, and a lot of the recommendations to develop that policy are through our land use codes. And we'll talk about this a little further after the commission's done talking. But, let's take, for example, our COR district, our commercial office retail district. The commission has the overview of identifying what are uses by right, what are uses by special permit, and what are specific prohibitions, and then what are the conditions for certain types of uses. You know, it's just like in a single family district, you're permitted to build a house. Now, it may not be the house that I originally wanted, but you know, I'm permitted to build a house. It's a guarantee. It's well within my right. If I want to conduct a group home out of the house, I have to petition for a special permit, and that requires public comment, public hearings, and so you know, all that is shaped through that process of, you know, what, you know, we don't know every possible or potential use and what would be coming into the future, but that's how you navigate through your codes, or you do amendments, or you do the necessary changes in there. And we saw the process work, you know, about over a year ago when we had the cultivation facility. I mean, the commission did its role, its job in terms of what its recommendations through the comprehensive plan were. But when it got to the council, who has the final say, they were specifically, you know, in tune with what the community or the prevalence of the community and the comments that were noted at that time, and said no in that process. So that it is integrated in there, and I probably not articulated it as well in there, but that's how you know, how those processes are determined, and how those things are. And I think, like Commissioner Wagner was kind of referring to, there are things, certain inalienable rights. You know, you have the rights to that. You have these vested interests. We have an industrial property that's vacant, and they have a vested interest that they can use that property for industrial purposes. With our new comprehensive plan, our policies will change and eventually take into consideration when that site develops, you know, that, you know, sustainability, you know, preservation of open space, and economic viability, community participation, that all those things will take place through that process in there. So I hope that helps. I know it's a tricky question. So.
It is. I do have one quick question, and maybe while I was thinking about it, you might have addressed it, but not everything comes before us. So not everything gets a chance for public comment. And so we gotta be careful using the word all.
Mhm.
You know, and I think, you know, I think residential inputs is, we could say, is part of all community, you know, commission decisions. You know, but I think we gotta be careful. We can't say all, especially if it's not even coming to us. Otherwise, now it forces every, you know, application to come in front of us so we can hold a public comment.
Well, I'm sorry, just to jump in. I think you could say that the public comment part of our agenda is specifically for things not otherwise on the agenda. So that is open to anything that anybody wants to say. So even if it doesn't come before us and we don't have any say on it, it's still an opportunity for the public to speak about it. And, you know, we could take that into consideration in some capacity.
But then they would have to be notified ahead of time, wouldn't they?
Well, they wouldn't be notified through the agenda process, but if it affected them in the community, they were notified just by being a participant in the community. That would be an opportunity to speak. So your point's well taken, but I'm just saying
Yeah,
there is.
I thank you for the clarification. That, and it makes sense. I get it, but.
Right, I mean, that's a good reason, what we're just discussing, actually, there's a good reason why specific language is not appropriate in the plan,
Right,
because, I mean, we're debating, you know, how this might be interpreted, just sitting here. You know, just think about, you know, I mean, somebody sitting out there who isn't happy with a prior decision and wants to use that to attack us and hurt us badly, that's that saying, come here, this is where you're gonna hit me. And I think that kind of language, when our processes are so good, it just hurts us. It doesn't help us help the community.
unintended consequences.
Unintended consequences, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Unfortunately.
right. I mean, I think the idea is good. You know, but
Well, I mean, what if it was just a broad statement, like the commission encourages community members to speak show up and speak in meetings.
Provide
just-
input. I like that.
I mean, it just doesn't have to be binding at all.
We want to avoid just creating an
That's-
unintended procedural requirement. What we actually want is just a general goal or objective
Right.
for
Right.
That's what I was kind of like,
No.
taking like little notes here, like in changing that sentence, where our government actively, changing it to our government continually seeks residential involvement in developmental decision and like community development decisions or something like that. Cause that then says we are seeking input, but not really tying specific language to it.
I like encourages, not seeking,
Okay.
just because if there's something, a
Encour-
development,
that's fine, yeah, I can see that, encourages.
yeah.
Yeah,
Was
I don't even think we need to say anything about decisions. We just
Okay.
encourage the public
Okay,
to
continue.
participate and make comments and.
In the process.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I like that.
Will you say it one more time? I'm just, so I have it on my notes, right? Sorry.
I think it was, the commission encourages the public to. Yeah, like that.
In the process. Well, that was a group effort. Yeah, good, good. Okay. What about some of the other comments, that Stephanie Todd brought up? Is in her email as well as what she said? Well, everyone has a chance to review. I'll just give you kind of my personal feel. I do think we already have a lot of the sustainability, kind of throughout the process. I do kind of want to stay away from, all aspects, just unintended consequences that might be there.
I think it, and to Carol's point, it gets, some of that gets, the spirit is there on all these, I believe. in
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
We've done, I think it's, we're getting surgical on specific things, which you could get surgical on other things, surgical, but I think if the goal is sustainability, if the goal is to protect, then this plus you could add 5 other things would also come into play. So I don't want to get too specific on everything.
Right. I like the ideas.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Agreed.
But I also think maybe they're not, with every project, that may not be appropriate for every project. What those projects are, that they wouldn't be appropriate, I couldn't tell you right now. It's hard to say. But I do know that sometimes environmental sustainability sometimes run contrary to economical developments as well. And it's all about a balance in my mind, I wish every building we built could be LEED certified, but there's an added cost to that, to do that. And I just feel like sometimes it's tough. Now, there's some goals of sustainability goals that are very inexpensive, and very good to incorporate, so I don't want to, I understand some of those aspects, but I also feel like I think it'd be, I kind of like the way the wording is right now.
I just want to point out that in the little city of Olivet, I think we discovered this once before, we went through some of this process when we were looking at sustainability. There are a lot of things related to the environment that are just not within our control. And, they're global issues, but they're still critical. But I think the sustainability, as you pointed out, is there throughout the plan. And I think that it'll be more and more important as we go forward. I don't think that we should tie our hands with regards to saying that we will do X, Y, and Z, because who knows? I don't think that's gonna help. I mean, I'm certainly amenable to changing some of our language, but I'm not seeing that the recommendations from Stephanie really add to the plan itself. They're certainly all, good, sustainable things to do, no question. But whether or not they're appropriate for us, hearing all of that in a comprehensive plan, I'm not sure.
Chairman, I'll add, again, going back to the component is, taking it out from the commenter or the commentee, these were issues that were discussed by the advisory committee in there. And I think the three of you know more of those discussions that took place, especially as we got to balancing sustainability and economic development. And there were varying opinions in that process.
Absolutely.
There was a consensus process that Shockey put together to get us through that in there, and it becomes now is I think I praise that they're still advocating for that in there, but I'm also cognizant that there was a lot of discussion in there, and and whether everybody should show up for the public hearing to say, well, wait, my opinion was this in there. Again, I think the commission, or looking at you three, to give the commission some context of what was going on in those discussions, because I recall there was some varying opinions on not just on this, but on other aspects of this in there. So taking, again, it's not about the commenter or the comment or perspective, but did that engagement happen? Did those discussions happen in there? And whether you individually or I, agreed with the end result or not, did it take place? Was that opportunity to discuss it provided? And I think overall it was.
Oh, yeah. And there were interesting debates, and that's was my point was, I like the way it was written. I like the way we balance out with having the sustainability goals, kind of floated throughout the whole plan and highlighted, as well. And I think Shockley did a great job of doing that and bring it to light. But there are definitely some people that felt otherwise. Now, they agreed with it in principle, but it all came down to unintended consequences as well. Or the concerns about that, concerns of cost of projects if they've always had to have sustainability issues. There was also discussions too about changing technology. We're all going through a major change right now with electric vehicles, solar power, and things are constantly changing. So it's hard to predict kind of where it's going. And I think, if you listen to the news, there's a lot of people that are now concerned about the EV vehicles, that they don't have pure EV, that we don't have the infrastructure already, in place. Now, I'm an early adopter with EVs, and I've experienced it kind of out there, on the road. Not all the time, but I've had some trips to Chicago that have doubled my time. And so it's an interesting thing that's going on. And I do think we need to be flexible. We need to listen to everybody, and kind of adjust our goals on these items as we go. That's my thought. Carlos, does that kind of summarize a little bit? Brian, did you have anything else you wanted to add related to that?
I think Carlos brings up a good point. This if somebody had brought a point that hadn't been discussed or was new or tangibly different than anything we had said or heard, I think it's a different conversation, but if these conversations were had, voices had opportunity, we reached this consensus because that's part of the process, so.
Right.
I would suggest we move forward then.
I concur. What about the last anonymous? Maybe I didn't pronounce that right. Comment related to, slow down or stop the approval of big buildings close to Olive.
I guess I look at it as definitely a valid opinion, but I don't think it wasn't reflective of kind of what we've heard in the surveys and the goals overall.
We did
So,
hear some of those comments.
Again, difference of
brought
opinion,
up,
but you know,
Exactly.
it's a balance.
But we also heard a lot of strong
Keep it going.
other opinions. Yes, exactly. So, well, good. I just wanted to make sure we
Yep.
all kind of went over that, and if anybody else had any further discussions on these items. So, Carlos, I think we've gone through these. I think we have an edit we'd like to add to it. But I do think that's something, I know this is an important plan. So do we want to see the final version of it, make those edits?
If it was,
Go ahead and approve it.
if it changed the structure or the formatting of the plan, maybe that's not the right term. I would say, correct, you'd want to see the end result, but I think what I've heard so far are tweaks,
That's what I'm
to-
thinking. This is.
to that,
This is a comment that we can.
I would
add.
think, correct.
And I think if we include that in, in our,
Motion.
On your
motion,
final draft.
then I think we would be good. Is there any other further discussion on this? Seeing none? Go ahead, Karen,
May I make the motion?
please.
I would like to motion to approve resolution number 2024-001, a resolution to adopt the 2024 comprehensive plan update.
Motion's been made by Carol Wagner. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Brian Lewis. Carlos, should we, do we want to add, before we go to vote, we want to add that statement into the motion? I think we want to. So if you would mind considering an amendment to include the comment that, that we discussed previously. Now, if you don't remember that, we do have somebody who has.
Who wrote it down?
That says she hasn't? Okay.
Okay, so. Okay. So I would like to amend my motion to include a text adjustment, shall we say? Or in addition to the text that refers to that the planning commission shall encourage resident participation. That
Yeah.
summarize it pretty well.
Yeah. I think that the statement was the commission encourages residents to participate and provide comments in the process.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a second to that amendment?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Sorry, Tim, I blanked out. Carlos, will you please call the vote?
You're now voting on the amendment.
Okay,
Commissioner Wall,
Approved.
Commissioner Waller,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelback,
Approved.
too many wanks on.
Approved.
All right. One more time. Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Ragsdale,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Vice Chairman Wagner,
Approved.
Chairman Dragell.
approved.
The amendment to the motion passes. And Chairman, if you're ready, I'll, okay, on the amended motion, Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approve.
Commissioner Ragsdale,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Vice Chairman Wagner,
Approved.
Chairman Dragell,
Approved.
and Chairman, congratulations. We have adopted our new 2024 comprehensive plan update.
Well, thank everybody for all the participation. This has been a long effort, and it took a lot of time, energy from everybody, involved, and this is quite an achievement. This is, a landmark, time. So thank everyone. Thanks for everyone's involvement and, appreciate it. Congratulations to everybody. So.
Chairman, I'll note on their department memo, item number 5, next steps. So what happens now in there? So of course, the consulting team will put together the changes, and we'll get you a full final draft at our next coming meeting. We will also forward the final draft of the plan to the city council. The council doesn't act on this in there, so we would probably be looking for some type of recognition or acknowledgement of support of some sort. On the 2006 plan, the the council did not have any formal action either in that process, because this is solely the commission's plan. So again, I emphasize, this does not hold the council in their decision-making process, but this does, impact how your recommendations go to the council. So they will be impacted. It's just that they're not beholden to that final call. So what happens, and then it's required by state statute that then the city clerk seal or certify one of the copies of the plan, and I go and record it with the St. Louis County Register of Deeds, and it gets officially in their archives in that process, and that's how the procedure has to go. But beyond that, it's like, well, what about is that, the plan from that point doesn't get put on a shelf. So we're looking at our first meeting in April, hopefully in a work session format. My staff will start outlining the necessary changes in the land use code that currently reference the 2006 comprehensive plan specifically. So we make those quick changes right away. Also, part of that goal would be starting to look at and incorporate some of the policy changes that this plan starts to impact, bringing back that to the commission, which then would recommend it to the council. And those things could be changes to our SR district regarding open space. And there could be changes to the guidelines regarding tree preservation. It could be changes to the stormwater master management plan section of the code regarding stormwater, redoing our analysis or our requirements. So there'll be a variety of things, and it, given resources, it all can't get done at once in there, but we'll start looking for guidance from the commission on prioritizing those items, and other new items that would be implemented within our land use code or in our procedures or our policies that we would be going through. And then the plan gets used on applications as they come in. And Mr. Carswell is going to give you an example of that in a second, now that we have a new comprehensive plan. So
Great. Great overview. Appreciate it. Okay. So then we'll move on to new business. And this is item A, 417 Berkeley Place Court. Jack, are you?
all right, Mr. Carswell. You'll go up to the podium. Yeah, here's the clicker. Jack.
Good evening, Commission. So before you today is a petition for a 285 square foot open air accessory structure that would include a rooftop solar panel or roof that is covered with solar panels on the roof. Given the placement of the structure on the lot grounds and the inclusion of the roof mounted solar panels, the petition has to go through site plan, community design, and concept stormwater management reviews. So it is zoned, the lot is zoned as single family residential. It is part of the Berkeley Place subdivision, which is lot number 10 with a total of 0.63 acres. and then it is located on a corner lot. For that lot description, it meets the lot requirements for the site plan review with a lot depth of 150.38 feet and a lot width of 118 feet. And then due to it being a corner lot with the north property line along Old Bonham and the east property line along Berkeley Place Court, the front lot line would be the eastern lot line along Berkeley Place Court, and this means that the rear property line is the western line, and the side property line would be the southern line. So as of now, the city does not have any code requirements or regulations in place for solar panels, and instead of having a grounded solar panel situation, the petitioner submitted a unique design where the panels would be positioned on the top of the pergola structure, and the structure is a non-enclosed pergola structure, like I stated, with with an angled roof and solar. And on the site plan, you will notice the incorporation of gravel and landscape beds. And you can see also on your dais that there is a rendering in front of you. The petitioner also noted that the location of the flagstone walkway on the site plan, and that is how you would, it would extend off of the home and connect to the proposed structure. So that's how they would get to the structure. Regarding community design review, the design guidelines for accessory structures and uses, staff found no problems with massing, roof materials, and articulation with the structure, and that the structure is compliant with the design guidelines. Staff believes that the proposed structure does not take away from the home, and that the home is still a prominent feature, and the height of the structure does not overpower the home. However, the proposed structure is not located behind the home's footprint. The design of principles state that, in quotations, that you locate accessory structures behind the principal structure and set back from the property lines when feasible, and lessen visibility and soften the impact of the surrounding properties with screening or landscaping. The petitioner noted that there are 3 large trees that are not shown on that site plan, but in aerial photos they're there, and also that the petitioner has provided photos to show the proposed location of where the structure will go and how the structure will be screened. The petitioner also provided information pertaining to the materials in an email and support from the neighbor about the structure, and all of that information can be found within your packet. And then regarding stormwater management review, it is not required by code for this proposed structure because it is below that 400 square feet. Petitioner noted that the roof panels will be angled so that the water will flow off into the landscape and gravel beds. And also on the site plan, there is an existing water swell that is depicted on the plan. And the last thing in review is with the comprehensive plan relations is the incorporation of the solar panels fits into the community vision for goal I as part of the newly adopted comprehensive plan. In quotations, the plan stated that the city will encourage residents and businesses to do their part to protect the environment, and using the incorporation of the solar panels, it is a sustainable approach of reducing the dependence on finite and polluting fossil fuels. And the incorporation of these solar panels relates to different objectives within goal I, such as reduce the environmental impacts of the built environment, as well as minimizing the impact of climate change. And the incorporation of these solar panels is just a small step towards the larger goal, but staff believes that the petition is in tandem with the comprehensive plan objectives, as well as the incorporation of the solar panels relates within goal A, which is focusing on housing. And that goal stated that it encourages sustainable practices in existing and future residential developments. So this is a prime example of one of those sustainable approaches, as well as you can see some of the relations within the potential community actions, such as the number 2 one on goal I, which is recognizing residents and the efforts to incorporate sustainable practices, as well as goal 7, where it's strengthening the public understanding of the value of our natural resources.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions for Jack at this time? Go ahead, Carol.
Yes, Jack, so as I understand it, the issue here for me, actually, is not the solar panels, but rather that the accessory structures proposed essentially on Old Bonham Road instead of tucked behind the house. Is that a
That's-
correct assessment?
That is a correct assessment. The petitioner has photos. They were kind of a little blurry in situations, but the petitioner can also describe it for you, but they have defined the location using lollipops within the photo to show where that structure will go. There are also in the aerial photo on your dais where Carlos has circled or highlighted the location. There are those 3 large trees, and those provide a lot of screening. However, in the photos, due to it being winter, they're not in full bloom, and you can still see Old Bonham from an aesthetic standpoint. I think that it matches all the designs and the materials look great. So I would say that I understand your opinion on it. However, I think it fits within the design guidelines.
I think there's a lot of screening, along the trees, along Old Bonham there, and it's actually a pretty good advertisement for sustainability. So, anybody else have any questions or comments for Jack? What's that? Which trees? The screen. Well, I think there's, can we pull up the photos by chance? And look at the photo view from the east.
I'm just asking about the health of the trees.
I know, but I want to show this because they're kind of like, there's a lot of shrubs that are look like along the. Yeah. I guess, yeah, this view. Oh, is what I was looking at.
And that would be the first photo. Oops, sorry, but did you mean the second one?
I
Or
think
the view
this-
from the east is,
The one you
yeah.
have, right, just scroll down a little bit long, no, opposite,
The opposite way? Sorry.
yeah. Right there, stop. Because this looks to be where it would be, correct?
Mhm.
So you have a lot of,
I think it's
Farther in though, it's farther towards the end of that picture is where that is.
maybe someone could point it out, where it's gonna be.
It's going to be, if you look at the driveway turnaround here, it's in this segment right here, then it comes back.
And Old Bonham's behind the trees and the shrubs there.
Old Bottoms, yeah,
Yeah.
back over here.
Yeah, so you can't even see Old Bonham even in the winter, really.
Exactly.
So what's back here that we can pull that thing behind the house a little bit more?
There's another tree.
There is another tree right there.
It's on the site plan.
You can see a little bit of the southern edge of that tree. That's it.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Karen.
It appears that it's well screened and so on, and certainly I don't have any issues with the design. I'm a little concerned about precedent here because we've been rather adamant about accessory structures being behind the building. Although I think this one, I don't really have any issues with. But it does raise the question. So I think we need to be fairly specific in our consideration.
I guess I would argue it, looking at from the front door, it is behind the building. But also, I don't know where else it would go, because I think it can't go to the south, right? So
Without cutting down. trees.
but even then, I'm not sure there's space to put it there without the property line to the next property, but and I understand your concern. My view is, and I'm generally gonna push for anything solar panel or sustainability, so, but it is screened. It's at least, it's a nice structure. So I'm generally in favor of that.
I agree that it's a nice structure. And again, I don't have any particular issue here other than we're doing something that we had said we weren't going to. So, I'm just trying to find the reasons that makes this an exception.
Is
And
it
I
the
think
exception that it's behind the building? Because it is behind the front door, right?
I think your point that doesn't appear to be much room in the lot for it to go anyplace else is a valid one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There are a couple of things that are giving some back history to this project. One, it is within the buildable area of what's permitted by zoning. However, this is a corner lot, so no matter where that placement is, it's going to be visible from one street or the other. It won't meet the spirit and intent of that code, given that this is a corner. If it was one lot over, then definitely you can place it directly behind in there. And the commission has provided some leniency to previous petitions for that placement in there, mostly on these interior type lots, not necessarily on corner ones, because we haven't experienced those. The second thing is the initial petition came in as what I'll call as a solar farm in there to try to work that. Speaking with the commission, expressing Vice Chairman Wagner's comments, I was concerned about that precedent. We haven't really sat down and talked about the solar farms, independent, they're not put on the roof line, and how that would look in the petition. The owner is cognizant of that. There also been very active in articulating, preservation of Old Bonham and that streetscape as applied to other designs. So we had discussions about that and how this would set a precedent. And petitioner went back and reworked this and ended up proposing to do a pergola in there, utilizing the pergola then to place the solar panels as opposed to having it as a farm in there. So the angle that faces Old Bonham is at a higher point, so you don't really see the solar panel roofing because they're facing south in that process. And there is various ways that you could do this, but in this case, they did take into consideration, and anybody can, I'm sure, look at different designs and aspects, but careful consideration to the design, and then incorporating the lattice work, which is going to be handmade by the homeowner in that process, addressing the stormwater issues, because we really didn't know how to bring this to the commission in there. And the goal here is if there's going to be a standard set, we want to establish a bare minimum that is as high as possible in there. I'm not advocating that this is the best solution or anything like that, but all those concerns were taken into consideration as we went through that process.
Good. All right.
Chairman,
Karen, go
I
ahead.
do want to point out that this is still set fairly far back from the street itself.
Exactly.
So I think that helps a lot, even though it is going to be on the street and not behind the building, as our skylines specify. It is going to be still, it's going to be set back from Obama considerably.
Exactly. And it's a pretty big lot, and I think it supports it just fine.
View of the property.
This would be a street view of the property from Old Bonham. And then this would be a street view of the property if you're on Berkeley. And you can see the grade drop here and the three trees. And then this was a little bit more matured now.
Okay, good. Anybody else have any comments for Jack? If not, I'd like to bring on the petitioner.
Good evening. I'm Ed Solomon at 417 Berkeley Place Court, and thank you for entertaining our request this evening. Did you want me to answer any
If there's-
questions or?
Only if you had anything else that you wanted to add, about
Yeah,
it.
really, we wanted to take on our part in a sustainability effort for a variety of reasons. The rooftop approach was not the right one, we felt, for us. We looked at ground mount solar, the sort of commercial approach where it's right on the ground in a metal sort of support structure. We didn't think that was really residential appropriate. That was just our opinion. So we really wanted to try to come up with something that we felt would be more reflective of the guidelines we'd reviewed for other, I think there's a picture of pergolas or so in there. There were some questions I think you had asked about the age of the trees. We planted them when we built, so they're about 30 years. They're in good health. They're maple trees, should have a long life to them. And then as Carlos showed, we have a row of tall hedges up at Old Bonham as well. So you kind of have two layers there. Behind us, we are lower than the neighbor behind us, and we also have a long row of mature tall hollies. And then really it's this view, I guess, where you would see it. Now, behind the driveway, I'll point out that one sort of tall shrub you see there, that is in the location where this will go. And we're gonna have a professional move that actually to the other side of the driveway. It's a really nice tree that we want to save. So if there are other questions or so, I'd be glad to.
Anybody? Go ahead, Tim.
So I'm not familiar with solar panels. Is there gonna be a panel inside that pergola?
So the roof will be rafters, just open rafters, and then the panels, there's mounting rails for the panels that'll attach to the rafters, and then the panels attached to those rails.
I meant like an electrical panel, like a piece of switchgear that's in.
Oh,
to move it.
so there is a piece of equipment called a combiner that sort of pulls all the individual signals together. It can go here, or it could go on the house or in the garage of the house, and that's a detail we're still discussing with the solar contractor.
Okay, my preference is not to see that from Old Bonham or from the thing, so even if you did it, I would want to see that pergola closed off, so you're not seeing the back of that panel.
Okay.
That would be my preference for that.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I think you can go the distance. I mean, if people can put these on the roofs and travel down to a common location, you got plenty of distance to make that. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
I mean, there'd be wires going down, but I think your concern is with the placement, that it not be visible from Old Bonham.
Exactly, I don't want to see I would rather not see a big panel on Old Bonham. I could see it being, 42 inches tall panel. I have no idea, but
Yeah, I haven't seen
I'm
one,
not
and I
sure
don't
either.
remember. They're not that tall, but they're
But
probably.
it would be better on the house, but if it's not on the house,
Mhm.
then I'd like to not see it.
Okay.
To hide that somehow.
Yeah.
That would be my only thing. I think it
Mhm.
looks great. I think it's great for it. That was my only concern.
Good. Anyone else have any comments? I think at this point, we'll just take public comments, so appreciate your time and
All right.
and
Thank you.
efforts. in this.
Likewise.
Does anybody in the audience have any public comments related to this item? Carlos, seeing none, can you check online?
If anybody online would like to speak in regards to the petition, I know the property owner's contractor is on, and I think Ms. Solomon is on. Okay, so I don't know if either want to speak. No.
No? Okay. Seeing no other public comments, does anybody have any further discussions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a
Go
motion.
ahead, Brian.
Motion to approve the petition for site plan, community design, and concept stormwater management plan review for a 285 square foot solar paneled accessory structure located at 417 Berkeley Place Court, as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated February 1st, 2024, with this small addendum that the panel would not be visible from the street and subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Brian Lewis. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Daniel Rosenberg. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Spielguggeles,
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Ragsdale,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Vice Chairman Wagner,
Approved.
Chairman Dragell.
Approved.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Very creative, very creative.
Okay, Carlos, no other new business, so we'll move on to other business and item A, meeting minutes. And I see meeting minutes from January 18th. Well done. Go ahead, Carol.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to acknowledge receipt of the meeting minutes for January 18th, 2024.
So acknowledged. Okay, we'll move on to, well, if anybody has any edits or comments, please let staff know. Okay, we'll move on to reports. Carlos.
Chairman, several things just to inform, and that first and foremost, we do not have any active petitions in line, so our meeting scheduled for the 15th will be canceled. This will provide us and staff time to get prepared for the April, our first meeting in March, I'm sorry, March 1st, I believe. It is, so we will have no meeting at two Thursdays from now.
Okay, fantastic. Winter break.
Yeah. Regarding reports, actions or things that take place through this commission. Next week, the St. Louis Academy of Dance will be opening up at their new facility at Olivet Center. They went through the commission process to obtain a special permit for reoccupancy of the old Tuesday morning site. And they're excited. They have over 415 dancers at that facility, and they're doubling their space. So it's a great thing for them in going on there. Regarding the Audi development, we've had a preliminary permit discussion meeting, and we anticipate that they'll be submitting for their permits in March. We've been trying to facilitate it to get going, but the reality is that they'll probably be on their schedule and open early 2025 in there. But if we see any opportunity to facilitate that, we will in there. The holdup, at least for right now, is that they're going through MSD. Now, they already have a development plan approved, but they need to change that through MSD to reflect what they're actually doing. It still has to go through a process. So even though all that infrastructure has been installed by the developer and all that, MSD now has to view it in terms of what the actual building is and work. So that will be the thing not under our control. And once they come in, we'll get that facilitated as quick as possible. Last week, we also received the building permit applications to what is now termed the Irvington Place Apartments, and that is the former Opus Balboa development off of Alice Place between Hilltop and North Price Road. So we're doing the permit review in that process, and that was already approved by the commission in there. So the assumption would be that by late spring, early May, they'll start construction on that site.
Great.
In there. Other items on the commission action, easy storage is slowly coming to an end. They still have a lot of exterior in there, but their goal is hopefully late March or before May to open up, and they've already had preliminary discussions with potential tenants at the lower level in there. We met with representatives of the Great Heart Brewing as they submitted their first set of permit plans also for their review. Their goal is, of course, to try to get the initial or some type of partial occupancy by late May, early June, so they can start the brewing process and then open up by late summer in there. Other projects that are going on, we're still waiting for construction to commence on that lot 3. That was on the news earlier this week regarding now Smoothie King being a potential tenant in there along with the Paris Baguette in there. So that's where we are set now. We're closing up the permit for the Olive Crossing, the Clover apartment complex. That's getting final reviewed through us and final walkthrough in that process. And then the Virginia Tile that was located in Dillman Industrial owned 2 warehouse office buildings that total about 80,000 square feet. They consolidated and moved their facilities to Kansas City. So they left a pretty big vacancy in our industrial park. But we were fortunate enough to get 2 new tenants right away, which was good. And they're both are in the construction business. One is a countertop facility. The other one is a cabinet facility. Both are higher end residential. And there, so it's nice to bring in some of that manufacturing activity into the industrial park. And Paddle and Peco and is looking to open also within the next week or two as they're nearing their final inspections through that process. So I think, and of course, activity is going on down here across the street here on Dealman on the townhouses. They'll start work on the retaining walls hopefully within the next 2 weeks. And we're still reviewing the building plans, and they plan to start on the north side and then work their way south. So be glad to answer any questions or any other items.
I'm curious, I forget the name of it, but it was a dog park, that facility on the north side. What was happening there?
They needed to go and get some engineering done and get that coordinated with MSD for those improvements. To date, I haven't reached out. I know we talked about it in staff, and we'll try to find where they are and bring that back to the commission. And there, we hope the process is still moving forward. But I think as they were going through that, some of the actual requirements that are required could change that business plan. And those again are things somewhat out of our control in that process too. It's unfortunate.
I wanted to ask about the commercial site by the Oliver. We're still haven't seen anything.
Correct. And that's what I had noted in there. Oh, by the Oliver, your
Oliver.
different location.
Right.
Yeah, we approached them and probably will reach out to them again. It was probably about 3 to 4 months ago in there, and their concern was at least what they articulated to us was that right now everybody's waiting for the crossing and the marketplace to identify their tenant spaces before they would look at a location further from the interchange. So they're waiting for Greg and the McKnight component to ramp it up and get done. So people will be looking at what are the alternative sites. And so I'm just a messenger. So,
Understood. Okay, Carlos, appreciate the report. Anything else?
no, and then Ms. Doty has identified coffee with the mayor next week, and that will be held at 5 Oaks in there regarding recycling. Economic Development Commission meeting on Monday, February 27th. Ms. Doty, I'll let her talk about some of the activities that they're working on. Holy Fest, March 23rd, the citywide yard sale, April 13th and the 14th, native plant sale, the April 27th, and then Party in the Park, May 4th. And Don, do you want to talk about the
I'm not going to use the microphone down there. So we are going to be participating in the Creve Coeur Olivet Chamber of Commerce Business Awards this year. We are going to go through a public nomination process for Business of the Year and a Restaurant of the Year. This is an important part of participating in the Chamber of Commerce. I believe we have not in the past. It has been strictly Creve Coeur Olivet or Creve Coeur nominating or awarding 3 or 4 awards a year. And Olivet is just elected not to do it for various reasons. But to, be a missing part of that equation, I feel like it's a missed opportunity. This will give us the chance to have a better relationship with our businesses. It's to, not just get feedback from the community, which the nomination process does accomplish that. But it also will increase our visibility and the visibility of our businesses. But we also were very interested in having a better relationship with our businesses and, increasing their visibility as part of that. So, restaurant of the year, business of the year, we will have that, that survey out very soon. And so you'll be hearing about that in the very near future. Did I leave anything out?
No, and I think this is our first stab at this, participating in the process. So we did keep it restricted to, the business of the year and restaurant. Creve Coeur, I believe, gives 4 or 5 different awards. And now that we are under the new comprehensive plan, we can start looking at, promoting businesses that are, support sustainable principles and things of that nature, and all that with the direction and guidance that we have. So.
I think it's great.
And the form of the survey has built it that, a way to acknowledge those or to, kind of call to mind what are the important qualifications that we would want to look at for our business of the year.
So Don, is this a survey of the community?
Uh-huh. Oh, well, it's a nomination. So the survey is the vehicle, but it's a nomination, a public nomination process. Although the EDC will not be restricted to those businesses that are nominated, and any businesses that are nominated are not necessarily going to be, make that final cut. There could be, if they're not in good standing with the city, if they don't have their business license, there will be a matrix that kind of covers their qualifications that'll be visible for the EDC.
Very good. Well, that sounds exciting. That's great.
Very fun.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Don't go it.
Yes, ma'am.
Missy, did you?
So how is that survey gonna be pushed out to the community?
Social media and our newsletter.
Okay.
I got it in just.
Okay, Missy, you're up now.
All right, thank you very much. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is a wonderful day again. May Sanford up in heaven be shining down and be so proud of you, sir, and this board and this commission. When I first got started, I sat around kitchen tables of our forefathers that created our bylaws in 1973. And they said, comp plans in the city never got off the shelf. We did a great job with our community back in the day. Our comp plan got off the shelf. We are now dealing with a second comp plan that deals with the future. And the topics of concern today are all levels of sustainability. You've all heard me say mine is social sustainability. Okay. But congratulations to everybody that participated within the subgroup, to the staff, to the hard work of Shockley. I'm so proud that the last one didn't get put on the shelf. So kudos to everybody here. It's a great day for you all. Second of all, you all know I'm an executive board member with the Municipal League, so I kind of want to share a little bit of information with you. And next month, we'll be sponsoring that Municipal League meeting here in Olivet. So I want to share some interesting facts with you because the speaker at the Municipal League meeting was a gentleman from the Missouri Water Company, Missouri American Water Company. Yes, right after the Martin Luther King Day freeze. So, so this is why I'm here, because I got some really, really interesting, stuff from this gentleman. First off, do we all know that our water in St. Louis County is taken from the Missouri and the Merrimack River? That's where our water comes from. We've got 4,500 miles of piping. We've got 350,000 St. Louis County customers, and they have 32,000 fire hydrants within our area. Since Martin Luther King, up until the day of January 25th, they had fixed 250 main breaks. Yeah, and kind of talked about lead pipes. If you got lead pipes in your home, they're kind of tracking that. If you want to let the water company know if you have lead pipes or if you've modified, like we're about to do in our home, they're really wanting to try to map and track that. Last but not least, something I didn't know. They track the water temperature. And here's what really blew me away. when the river gets below 40 degrees, not 32, 31, 30, they say when the river water temperature gets below 40 degrees is when the water pipes begin to break. And so they are constantly monitoring the water temperature of the waters that bring us our water. So they do a lot of stuff that we don't realize that they do to make sure we have good and healthy water. So just kind of wanted to share that with you. We are monitoring legislative matters, and I kind of made you all aware of the grocery tax issue. We'll be watching that, see how that goes. Beyond that, Carlos has done a great job of summarizing stuff. Enjoy your time off from February 15th, and thank you all for what you do. God bless you.
Good. Thank you, Missy. Any other questions or comments people want to make? Seeing none, we'll adjourn at 8:41. Thanks, everybody. Right.